Welcome back, my nomads. Welcome back to excuse me, another Bitcast. It's your boy, and I'm here with Zach once again. What's going on, Zach?
How you doing, man? Are you all right? You had an old man moment.
Oh, I'm eating some cashews and got stuck in the esophagus. So
Cashews. How progressive of you?
if you're gonna snack healthy. You know what I'm saying?
No, I got this. Well, before we get started on this, I have this summer freeze Mountain Dew. Shout out to Mountain Dew. They're not paying us for this. It tastes very good. It tastes like a bomb pop.
I know my wife got a canister of those cans. I was like, not for me. Not for me. But what's been good with you, man? So the new format. We got let's do 10 minutes of stuff you want to talk about, stuff you want to just breeze on by. I
Yeah,
have one
dude.
thing. I saw Spider-Verse today, and it was dope.
Yeah. Was it?
It was
Yeah.
dope. Everyone should
Good.
see it, and that's all I'll say. It's dope. It's amazing. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. I thought
Oof.
that was long for an
What is
animated
up with
feature.
these movies that are so long? What is going on?
I don't know. And I thought that was long, and turns out I looked it up. It's the longest animated feature to date. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's worth
Avatar
it.
doesn't count as animated.
I guess because it's like half live action and half animated. Because
But the
Avatar
live
is
action's
basically a
behind a green screen most of it, even though they film stuff in.
That's a good point. I guess because you have live action people, it doesn't count, I guess. I think James Cameron is pushing the line and we have yet to catch up
That's
with it.
pushing the line, I think, a little bit. But it's fascinating that it's. I mean, it makes sense because animation like probably takes 4 or 5 times longer than just filming something and editing it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, the first one came out in 2018, 5 years ago.
jeez.
5 years. I remember when it was announced, when it was supposed to come out,
Yeah,
this
no.
one.
People are like, "Oh man, who's this kid going to be Spider-Man?" It's like, yeah, you kind of saw the writing on the wall of where they wanted to do with Spider-Man, which is great because I love Miles Morales as a character, so I'm very excited to see it. I can't wait. And
Yeah.
yeah, so what I want to talk about, like bring up is,
What's up?
dude, what's going on with this AI stuff, dude? It's like iRobot,
Oh yeah.
like so just, if anyone's not paying attention living under a rock, ever since we had like ChatGPT 4 come out, it's just exploded in terms of what it's used for.
Hmm.
And then a lot of people probably don't know is, along with the writer's strike, that these writers are essentially being replaced by a natural language machine
Yeah,
that's
Skynet.
writing movies.
Yeah, Skynet's taking over, man.
I I want your opinion first, and then I can kind of go into more detail from my background on this type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Basically, so I'm not in the industry, obviously, but from what I hear is that the studios aren't playing ball with the writers. And I think this strike is going to go longer than the '07-'08 strike.
Which
And
was how long?
uh
Let me Google that
I
while you.
just heard somebody say it. I was listening to a podcast. Maybe 7 to 8 months. I don't know. But yeah, so it sounds like the execs aren't playing
100
ball.
days.
100 days. Oh yeah, 100 days.
Began in
Yes,
fall
100
of
days.
'07 and tracked out for 100 days.
Just a little over 3 months.
So, what kind of movies came out
Quantum of
that you think
Solace,
was affected by the writer's
Quantum
strike?
of Solace,
Mm-hmm.
and Revenge of the Fallen, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen are two of the biggest movies that were affected. And it shows. It absolutely shows. Michael Bay and a couple of the producers I remember seeing behind the scenes of them like, what do we do with this? What like the script wasn't finished and they were in production. They're like, we got to figure out what to do. So Michael Bay, one of his solutions was just like, yo, I'm just gonna add more explosions. And he says that unapologetically. Like we all know who Michael Bay is. We all know his attitude. And he was just like, look, I'm not a writer, so I just added more explosions. And Quantum of Solace, I mean, that was a
Best part of that movie was the
yeah, it
theme
was
song.
affected. It was affected by the writer's strike, and it shows.
Best part of the movie was the theme song.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, it's interesting to see this play out because June 30th, I heard, is when the which guild, the Actors Guild, the Actors Guild, um, their their contract is up. So all these guilds, the Directors Guild, the Writers Guild, the Actors Guild, the Editors Guild, they're all 3 month, 3 year contracts, 3 year contracts with the big wig studio execs, and so June 30th is the actors, and then I believe it's the Directors Guild next. And I'm
And the
wondering
main thing is just revenue sharing, right?
revenue sharing, and also a big thing was that the writers were like there can't be any AI writing these scripts. It has to be through human hands. And the studios just flat out said no for that demand. And because this doesn't
Color me
affect
surprised.
yeah,
So I'm just curious,
it
right?
just doesn't affect
Because
writers though. It affects actors, it affects editors,
right, exactly.
directors.
So like 10, let's just say the top writers, right? They're probably not going to be affected by the AI because they're wanted no matter what, and those AIs are probably being emulated in lieu of those writers, right?
Oh yeah,
So
100%. Yeah.
we're really talking about. Do you honestly think that movies that have $400 or $500 million budgets, like Avatar, is an example, right? Where a studio is like, comes to like a Cameron S type of dude. It's like, you know what? We don't want you doing this. We want an AI doing it. Do you see that happening?
I do see that the studios would do something like that, but I don't believe it will be successful. AI is still only as good as the um the wielder is, So if you're it's still a tool. And so what's a hammer to someone who's never used a hammer before, who's never built anything before? You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't know what a story needs, how can you direct that AI to do what you need it to do? You know,
Right.
if you don't know if you don't know what's missing from this character or this storyline, chances are the AI is not going to know either. It's only as smart. Oh, ooh, boom! This is a perfect example of a movie that I love that we might have to look over. Tron Legacy. Tron
Love
Legacy
that.
is such an underrated movie, and in that
Yes.
movie, the whole idea of the villain Clue, who is a copy
Yes.
of I forget his
Jeff
name.
Bridges' character.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges' character is that he wanted his program to create the perfect
Yes.
world. And then he tells him at the end of the movie, I'm sorry, you were never going to create the perfect world because I don't know what it is. So you can only go as far as your programming. I'm at
Which
fault
is
here. This
just a
is all my
copy of
fault.
him.
Exactly. Oh, I love that movie. And so that's what's going on with AI, and I'm wondering when all these other unions who are definitely going to, because we're already seeing actors and other people, directors backing the writers now. Once their guild
They have to.
comes
They're
up,
reliant on the writers,
yes, the
and
writing
I
is
don't.
the skeleton. You can't have a body without a skeleton. I'm sorry, except for octopuses, but you can't have a body without a skeleton. It just doesn't work, and that's what
Right.
writing is. It's the bones.
I mean, here's the thing, dude. Like, if you like it or not, AI is here to stay, and it's replacing virtually every aspect of art. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
uh, in terms of literature, paintings, like, photography, and the ones who are involved in making AI that can depict art are creating programs to have you show when it's actually AI versus real.
Yeah.
That's just insane to me. But it's look, I mean, we haven't really talked about like my opinion on AI. Like for the most part, I think it's a good thing
Hmm.
because it's kind of like this is like a moment in our society where it's like building the atomic weapon, right? Where you get to this point, right? Everything else is kind of big. We have the internet, but I don't know how I feel about the internet. Like, I don't know if if the internet is as big as the atomic weapon being built, because that put the
Well,
United
the
States at
impact is
such a
still this.
place
The
in
impact
the
might be
world.
bigger, you know.
That's a humankind thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
that the atomic weapon was pretty much like a US thing, and when we dropped in Japan, like that really propelled us as the superpower at that point, right? So I'm just
yeah,
talking about like pure United States, because AI is not everywhere. It's only like very few places that it's actually used, because we have the ability to use it in pretty much every aspect of life. You go to like Uganda or like Indonesia, they don't have that ability for that, because they barely have computers that can run based on electricity. Like half the planet still doesn't even have like electricity.
yeah.
So I can't see AI making. I can't see like the internet. What I'm saying is that the AI is at this point of like the atomic weapon. Like it's going to propel the United States, if we keep having it the way where it's going, to be back to be where it's at as a superpower in every aspect of your life. Right?
Yeah,
Most
I'm
jobs are
just
being replaced.
yeah.
Lawyers, doctors, like dude,
Hmm.
these the AI is like outpacing doctors in terms of like medical board exams and stuff. Like it just blows your mind on like everything.
Yeah, I'm just
And why
wondering
not just
if we're
replace it for writing?
I'm wondering if we're going to head into what happened in Wally, where everybody's just nobody works anymore and everybody just gets just gets big and lazy. Or I'm just curious to see what the human condition is going to be after this because we're still getting used to social media as a humanity. Humans weren't meant to have well, not just social media, but information. Period. Humans weren't meant to have all this information at the
Not
same
yet.
time.
It's so new, right? Because we've
Yeah.
never been at a place as like you and I.
Mm,
We're one of those generations where we're growing up for the first time, having something that's like a breakthrough and finding a way to adapt it to everyday normal life. And we're
yep.
just having an over intake of it. It's not much different than other points in our civilization where some big comes out, they don't know how to handle it the first time around. And then as time goes on, you kind of have like a good measure of how much consumption you should have and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's like maybe
So
like Morse code. Imagine when that first got big. And it was like, oh, we could talk to people in different places? What?
the telewire, absolutely, it's huge, right? And now we kind of just like used to it. It's just another thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, no, like I don't know how. See that I was just having this talk with like Heather too, where she was like, I can't imagine having AI making a lifeless thing making art, when art is meant to be made by like a living being, because of the perspective and the experiences of that person gets transferred into like that the art, like that's the whole point of it. I was
Well,
like,
then
well,
it's not
I sort of was
art.
like, that makes sense, because if you don't have a lifeless thing and you have a self-aware AI making art, then you have a whole nother problem in your hands at that point.
Well, at that
So
point, it's
it's
not art. It's mimicry. We talked about this offline. Like
100%.
this AI is only learning from other artists. It's mimicking other
Exactly.
artists.
Right. It can only do what it's fed. So
Yes.
if it's got James Cameron, Wes Anderson movies, it's only going to learn from those two type of
Yeah. It won't
styles.
be able to make a Zack Snyder movie if you only give
No,
it
it's
Wes
not
Anderson.
original. You're not going to have like another person pop up. You're like, wow, that guy's good. You know, it's going to be a mixture of like everything, and then it kind of loses its luster after a while.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but I personally hope it doesn't. I think the studio is making a drastic business error and decision, and they're not reading the room right, and they think they're over analyzing this temperature. Like you
They're
can't just.
overplaying
It's
their
not
hand.
there yet in terms of just like replacing writers. Like, and the writers, like you said, it's a tool. Like it's going to speed up the process for sure. Like that's the whole point. It's supposed to be a supplementary thing in any aspect. It's obviously going to be used in lieu of actual people working and doing stuff. Kind of like Uber with taxis. Like Uber was never meant to be a full-time job. It turned into some people's full-time job. It was meant as a side income. It somehow turned into that,
Yeah.
you know?
That's a whole different
So I'm
conversation.
curious though, how would it be able to, well, it can code, which I know because my company does with that stuff with AI and coding. how do you think it would be able to handle the task of a director, technical, special effects, editing, all that stuff in one? How do you think that would work or look?
Well, we're already starting to see it in the VFX industry where it's basically taking the concepts that James Cameron has developed for um I don't want to it's mocap, but for him he calls it a mocap, e-mocap or something like that, where you're taking the face of someone's performance and you're putting it out there. AI is learning a person's face in real time and projecting a CG character on top of that with all the expressions. So we're already seeing that.
Is that what he did in Avatar?
No, 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 no. There's programs of AI that do that now. There's like websites
Okay.
like
So
Wondershare, I think it's
just
called.
so I know, so imagine the person's face is like a green screen.
Hmm.
The AI is kind of mimicking what our facial expressions are and adding the CGI layer on top of your real face so it can kind of project that into an animated format, right?
Yes, yes. It's basically mathematically acknowledging, oh, these are eyebrows, oh, these are lips, and it's mapping them. And so every time you move it, it puts it, it calculates the movements, and then
You know
it
what's the first thing
puts
this
it.
thinks of? And it's made by your favorite director who's now loony?
What?
Blade Runner, bro. Tell me
Yeah,
how he's
man.
not loony.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's making Gladiator 2 with Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal.
I'm sorry,
whatever.
what?
Yeah, you.
I did not know that. Oh my god.
That's a whole different. Let's get into it. We went over. Let's get into Godzilla versus Kong. The meat of why
You're
we're.
dropping Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, and Gladiator 2, and you're like, you know what? We already know this is a clusters.
Yes.
I want your first off, because Kong and and Godzilla movie is a great sequel, right? But
Right.
when do you think? Why do you think studios get greedy in terms of making movies they shouldn't make? In terms of like Gladiator, Gladiator was made like 23 years ago. What makes you what makes them think that people want to spend the money to see that now in something that was never meant to be a sequel or a prequel in it, however you want to spin it?
Because it already has a name. It's hard to propel an original IP when you could just regurgitate the same. Like how many
But most people who
Spider-Man
go to the
movies we
movies don't
have?
even know that they weren't even alive when it came out. All
I'm
right,
alive.
like
You're alive.
I know, but I'm talking about 20, 21, 22, 23-year-olds who go to the movies too. You know what I mean? They don't know what this, I mean, they might, but by the time they had a chance to see it, what, 15, 16, or 20, it was already 2015 and 16. You think they're going to be interested in watching a 16-year-old movie at that point? Probably not.
I mean, Ridley Scott has already shown that he's going to make whatever he wants, and if no one sees it, he's going to blame the audience.
Like The
I mean,
Last Duel.
yes, he's going to make
Great
what he
movie,
wants to
by the
make.
way.
Yes, it was a good movie, but
If they make
he
a sequel of that, I'm going to flip tables.
the last duel again.
Do you think so going into Kong and Godzilla, what kind of director or creative face does it take to make a good monster movie?
It takes a big kid in a grown-up's body,
Okay.
because if you
Who
when
did
you
Kong
hear
and Godzilla? I'm spacing on his name. It's the same guy who did John Wick, right?
who, the
Who
director?
was the Yeah, the director? No, because there was two different directors for the Godzilla movie, right? Because the first one who did the original Godzilla, they changed in the second one, right?
Yeah, like these movies have had different directors each time. So the first one was the director of Rogue One, I want to say. Don't quote me on that,
I
but I
thought
know
it
his
was the
I know his
guy.
first
Who's the
name
guy
was
who did
Gareth.
John Wick? I seriously thought it was him.
No, 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 no. It wasn't. Chad Stileski and David Leitch have never done a monster movie. David Leitch
All
has
right. Well,
done Deadpool too,
oh,
but
really?
yeah. But David after John Wick 1, because John Wick 1, Chad Stileski and David Leitch, who were both stuntmen in the industry, they both directed that movie. But because of the Directors Guild and all of this red tape, only one of them could take credit for the directing, so it went to Chad Stileski. David Leitch went on to do other projects like Hobbs versus Shaw, uh, Deadpool 2,
Hmm.
Atomic Blonde, whereas Chad Stahelski has just been dishing out John Wick movies. You know what I'm saying? Um, and that's not knocking him. I'm just saying that's
You're right. It is Rogue One. His name's Gareth Edwards.
yeah, Gareth. I knew his first name was Gareth. I always mix him up with the other Gareth who did the Raid movies, Raid 1 and
Six
Raid
point four rating for the first Godzilla movie.
2.
Well, they
Yeah.
have Rogue One at 7.8, which is also ridiculous. But
um 6.3 for Godzilla versus Kong. But I think the biggest issue for the first Godzilla movie people had was that there was barely any Godzilla in that movie, which is kind of true,
well,
but
that's fine. You don't need to have a whole bunch of Godzilla in a Godzilla movie.
but he you gotta people gotta remember Gareth Edwards, he was hired. This is a guy who was like an auteur. He was hired after doing a movie out of his own pocket where he would just travel to places that were affected by natural disasters like hurricanes and stuff like that. He would film B-roll and then he tailored a story around it that it was caused by a monster. And I think the monster was only shown at the end of the film. Yeah, it was called Monsters. And it was only showed at the end of the film because he had no budget, so he only showed it at the end of the film, which is smart. That's a guy who's smart, who knows what he's doing. You know, if you don't have the budget, don't show it. You know, just show it one time. Just spend the money that you have on that one special effect. But yeah, that's he basically did the same thing in Godzilla. So people were kind of like, yo, you didn't even there wasn't enough Godzilla in Godzilla, which brings us to I just want to say before we get into Godzilla versus Kong, I love the movie Godzilla King of Monsters. It's
Which I'm looking up right now. Do you know who
amazing.
directed that movie?
I do not remember
Michael Dougherty, right? And you know what
Michael
he's known
Dougherty.
for?
Oh, okay. What?
So he's written Trick or Treat, Krampus. I kind of like Krampus. Superman Returns, right?
Okay.
Like the one with what Brendan Roth is his name, and X2.
Hold on. Superman Returns. He didn't direct that. I know who
No, he
directed.
wrote it.
He
He's
wrote
a,
it.
he's
Okay.
just him writing it. He
Okay.
has very small. He has Godzilla King of Monsters.
Mhm.
He did the screenplay and the story as well. He's not no. He hasn't done a lot of directing. He's done
Mhm.
a lot of writing, like a ton of writing, and that's one of just a couple movies ever directed. He also wrote Godzilla versus Kong too.
Nice. Yeah, I see his writing credit here.
He's
Yeah,
got a ton of writing credit.
it was amazing movie. I love that movie. And you asked me offline, um, what is my favorite monster movie? And I have two. It's Godzilla King of Monsters, and the other one is Pacific Rim, the first one. Amazing movies.
Pacific Rim.
Yes. Classic. Classic. Guillermo, I always mess up his name. Guillermo del
Guillermo del
Toro.
Toro. Yes,
First of all, I
fantastic.
love his work. Whatever he does, I'm down for. I still got to see
You
The
don't
Way of
like the
Water.
Godzilla movie from the '90s with Matthew Broderick?
That movie, for the time, it's been a while since I've seen it, but that movie surprisingly made the human story interesting, and it gave the humans purpose. I know there was a lot of backlash at the time. I didn't know it at the time because I was young, but when I read about it, um, people didn't like the design of Godzilla because they changed it to look more like a
Does
dinosaur.
Jurassic Park count? Because I think it counts, right?
The first Jurassic Park is more like a monster horror thriller, kind of, not like a monster
All right,
bash type movie.
all right. So here, I got this. So I'm
Mm.
either going to give you two different ones that I think.
All right, what's up?
Alien.
Okay.
All right,
Hmm.
Alien's pretty good, or Jaws.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Besides, you already know how I feel about Godzilla versus Kong, right? So, but
Hmm.
those two though pretty much like set the standard for that. And why isn't there a lot of movies like that now? Like, do you think people just didn't get interested? Because sometimes it's like John Wick. It's just unadulterated action and violence. Like that. Sometimes that's fun. Why don't we have that now?
So, Godzilla versus Kong and Alien and Jaws are like I feel like they're in two different categories. You know, Jaws and Alien, we don't really get mainstream movies like that anymore because you got to be a real artist for movies like that, and studios just want to churn out big budget CGI monster stuff for if they do a monster film for merchandise and commercial stuff, you know. Whereas Alien and Jaws, because of the time that they were made, you had to be creative with how you made the monsters. You had to show them
It wasn't
sparingly.
realistic. Like I've seen this tour where how Jaws was made.
Mhm.
Very, it was made in '79, right? So it's like,
Right.
look, you got a 40-foot great white shark, which doesn't even exist anyway, and try to make
Yeah.
that believable. It's chasing Richard Dreyfuss around the
But
entire time.
you
Was
see
just,
like you don't they build suspense with music and the directing and editing because you
which is
can't
why I
show the
like it so
monster
much.
too much.
They didn't have to show the monster much. It's like really good M Night
Yes.
Shyamalan movies, right? Where it's like you get hints of
Yeah.
it until like the end, and then you get like 4 or 5 minutes of it. That's all you need, really.
Hmm. And see that turns back to what Gareth Edwards did with the first Godzilla and with his first movie that got him noticed, Monsters. You know, you show them sparingly, you build suspense and tension with the editing, the acting, and stuff like that, but you
Kong was
sparingly
different
show the
though,
stuff.
right? Skull
Yeah,
Island
Kong
was
was
really
different.
good, but it was all about Kong. And
Yeah.
I think part of it is because they made Kong relatable, and I think that's just because he's a giant gorilla and there is some kind of natural connection between apes and humans anyway, you know, where you can
Hmm.
just kind of have that type of relationship compared to Godzilla, who's a giant dinosaur virtually.
Yeah,
You
giant
know what I
dragon
mean?
dinosaur.
Because let's be real, dude. In Kong versus Godzilla, when Kong and Godzilla were fighting, everyone was rooting for Kong. You know, when he got his
Except
little
for a few of
hammer.
my friends, yeah, everybody was rooting for Kong,
I
even though I
personally like
knew.
Godzilla more because Godzilla is Apex. You know,
Right, right.
and he made that
Even though I
clear.
knew Kong needed a wish and a prayer to survive and win that fight, I was rooting for Kong because Godzilla just has he's like you said he's Apex. He has so many weapons that it's like Kong. Like you're probably gonna lose unless you get like some help or a wish and a prayer, man. And I was just like, come on, Kong, let's do it. And there was so many times because I saw this in theaters. It came out in
Me too.
2021 and I saw Godzilla versus Kong in theaters, and it was amazing. And I was the only one in the theater because it was still during the pandemic, and I was just like, "Yo, let's go, baby, let's go!" Like the fight scenes, man, were crazy. They were so crazy, and these two were just going at it, bro, just at it. I mean,
It's best date movie ever. You know that?
my
She's
wife
so
would
bored she won't
probably
try
not
talking
watch
to you.
that.
I hate that. There's always like, hey, where do I know this person from? I'm like, I don't know. You have a phone. Go look on IMDb while I'm trying to pay attention. What
Um,
I'm not here sitting. Where do I know this person from?
right?
While I'm trying to enjoy a dinosaur giant ape destroying a mechanized T-Rex.
Yes,
You
yes,
know? Great.
yes.
I love
It's
it's
amazing.
so simple. Sometimes it's like we have these crazy complexes within these stories now. Like we have to have such a crazy human element in everything. And it takes away from the enjoyment where we go to the movies to be, you know, to enjoy it, not have a Freud sit down of like our inner demons. You know, it's good to just see some action, some explosions, and like that's why I like the first two Transformers.
Right. But
After that, it kind of got dry.
yeah, you hit it on the nail though, bro. Like this came out during the pandemic. It was even delayed a little bit, but it came out during the pandemic, and we needed stuff like this,
Yeah, you needed it.
escapism, and it was
Life was
amazing,
crazy. People forgot how crazy it was then because it's a blur. But you
bro.
know,
When
life was kind of nuts then.
on my way to the movie theater driving, no cars on the road. It's just me. I go in the movie theater to watch Godzilla
People are
versus
like,
Kong.
"Really? You're here?"
Nobody in the theater
I
but
can
me,
only imagine people who are working the theater like this guy of everyone that comes in the movie theater is coming in.
bro. I was in the theater at least once a week, sometimes twice during the pandemic. That was
First
me.
off, I've been to the movies 3 times this year, and you know how I am. I don't go to the movies.
Yeah, I know.
But you're like, and I even get concessions. I'm like, these guys are dying. They're holding on by a thread.
That's what
It's
I was
like,
doing. I was in there with all these because that's when I found
I
out
feel like they're
that's how they
like
make their
hanging
money.
from a cliff, and they're just slowly losing finger by finger until they fall into the ravine. That's how
Yeah.
I feel like, because the movie theaters out here are all pretty much connected to a casino, and the casino is bustling and busy as anything, right? And you go into movies, it looks like a graveyard.
Yeah.
You got a couple people hanging out there,
Yeah.
and it's like when we went to go see John Wick on the first full day of release. Guess how many people were in the movies? It's a huge theater.
Yeah. 10?
4
Are you talking
on
about the
John
first
Wick
one or
4.
the newest
No,
one?
the newest one. First full
Four?
day of release,
My,
dude. 4
my theater
people.
was full, bro.
We had no one in there. I'm like, what is going on?
What? And that was recent.
Yeah, it was. No, it's just how it is, dude. No one comes. No one goes. You know, it's
Bro,
like,
my theater was full. It's
I
probably
think
because where
because there's
you
more
live.
stuff to do here. You know,
Yeah,
like
that's
there's
what
so
I'm
much
saying.
more.
Yeah, you live in Vegas, bro. There's so much stuff to do there. It's like where I live, there ain't nothing to do, bro. Go to
Dude,
the
there's
movie
only
theater.
here's the thing, all right? There's only so much Molly any one person can do. Go see the movie. You know, I mean, just take
Right,
some time, 2 hours out of your day, not have to do drugs on a, pole or something. Like, just go see. No, but
right,
no,
right.
it's weird though. Like, but a lot of movies are like that now, and I really do see a gradual change because they
Mm,
also released it day one on HBO Max. Did they not?
they did. They
Okay,
did.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, Godzilla versus Kong was
Because
that was when they were doing that.
we talked about how that was a gamble where you're spending all this money,
Yeah.
and it worked out really well for him because I think Max is probably the best platform at all of them. It's not even close. I use it the most at all of them.
True, but the recent update and making it max has just ruined the experience for me because it just the app on my TV, I mean on my box just doesn't work right. And then from what I hear
That
is
could be
not my
fixed.
box. Yeah, from what I hear is not my box.
No, it's the app. The app,
It's
the
the
app
app.
is complete trash.
Because it looks
I'm trying
different
to be
every time I
nice.
sign in.
I
And
don't
I'm
want you
like, what the
bleeping
hell?
me post edit on this. It's trash.
It is, man, and it's just ruined because it doesn't save where I left off on shows and stuff. And I'm like, yo, are you serious, man? Like, what is going on? And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's just and you're right. You know, we talked about this maybe last year. HBO Max is the best app, best streaming service, period. And
100%.
you know,
In terms of content,
and
it's just
their content during the pandemic was released in theaters and on the platform simultaneously. It did work for the app for subscriptions, but it really soured the relationship between directors and other studios that they had with Warner Brothers. A big one, Legendary Pictures, who did this movie and who did other movies, well, all the other monster movies and like 300 and stuff like that. They had a long relationship with Warner Brothers, but after this, after Dune and everything, they just signed a contract with Sony. They left Warner Brothers.
dude.
Sony and Legendary are about to do some big things, bro. I'm looking at you, Metal Gear Solid movie that's coming out. Uh,
Kiefer Sutherland should be in there.
they're making. I heard Oscar Isaac was cast
Oh
as
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Snake.
No, Kiefer Sutherland played the. Anyone who hasn't played the newest Metal Gear Solid game, it's been
Yeah,
a long time. Fake Snake played
yeah,
his voice.
faux Snake. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
Um, but
Jack
yeah. So,
Bauer.
so it soured a lot of relationships, but it was such a great movie to have during the pandemic. And I mean, I have a list of things to talk about and critiques, but honestly, these critiques are like nitpicks, man. Like, I love this movie. I think it's great. It gave me exactly what I wanted when I hear Godzilla versus Kong. Like, I would have been mad if it was like Godzilla versus Kong and it's dealing with politics and what do we do with the monsters and how do I'm like, yo, where are the monsters? Why are they not fighting? Give me the monsters. And that's why I love this movie. The first thing I have is that, the action, it doesn't take too long for the action to start, man. Stuff gets real
Yeah,
fast,
Godzilla
and I love it.
sniffs King Kong's musk and fights in the water.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Godzilla ain't playing no games. One critique I have about this universe, I'm like, so the humans haven't developed Titan level weapons to deal with them yet? Okay.
I got a thing for you.
Right.
Yeah, did you watch wrestling growing up?
Not really, no. I wasn't
You
allowed.
know
I
who?
grew up in a strict household, so it was
Oh, so did I. But I mean, come on, dude.
like
Shawn Michaels, you know who he is, the Heartbreak Kid, right?
I don't know.
His move, the sweet chin music, dude. Roundhouse kick right straight in the chin.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. Spin, bam, right there in the chin, right? Sweet
Right.
chin music. Anyway, they should have had Kong do that to Godzilla once. Can you imagine?
Kong, I
You
mean,
just,
Godzilla did that plenty of times to Kong with his tail. Just
I
whop,
know, it was
whop.
absolutely ridiculous. He didn't have to punch him, even he has short arms, but it's quite remarkable how nimble both of them were. And I
Yeah.
just, it, one thing I like about the movie, besides the fact it's totally unrealistic that you have these things so big, take that out
On
of
helicarriers.
consideration.
Fighting on
But
helicarriers.
when you see how big they are against these buildings,
Mhm.
and you're like, dang, these things are huge, man.
Yes.
Like, these things are like 200, 300. And I felt like Godzilla got bigger in each movie, or was that just me?
Yeah, I think it got like Godzilla just got bigger and meaner and just more powerful. It's like every movie Godzilla leveled up.
So why do you, to piggyback off your point, why didn't we have like humans just think of, you know what? We got to make some kind of weapon to fight this thing.
Yeah,
No,
it
we have a
seemed like
laser.
every time they showed up, the humans were
They're like,
just
oh man, we're,
scrambling.
we're screwed. It's like, what do you mean? You've known he's lived in the water for a long time.
Yeah,
At some point, you got to build something to fight him, or at least deter
yeah.
him. You know
Their
what I mean?
only defense was we evacuated the city. It's like,
You know, there's other
okay,
cities it's gonna mess up, right?
I know. All they have to do is just jump really far and they're in another city. Like it's nothing, man.
So you know what's funny about the first Godzilla movie that I really did like, besides the fact he destroyed half of Las Vegas.
What?
He went to Yucca Mountain and ate up all the nuclear material, right? But
Right.
I just like how it was a different spin on it, right? Because the older Godzilla movies kind of had him as like, well, some of them had him as she too.
Hmm.
Regardless, as like
The 1990s
humanity's
one
hero
had him as
savior.
asexual. You know.
Whatever, doesn't matter. If he's huge, likes to eat things. But anyway, it's like kind of like this weird dynamic where it's like humanity's savior. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we kind of regard that way. I'm like, that's not what it is. It's top of the food chain, and you don't have a choice. It's not there to save because it feels bad for humans.
Nah.
It's to represent that this is me. This is as big as it gets, and that's it. And you just got to listen
Yeah.
to it.
I'm the king. This is my world. And if any other Titan wants to go, let's go. Because I'm Godzilla. Let's go. I'm the king, not
Are
Kong.
there any
I'm the
more
king.
Titans? So, do you think they can make more movies, or do you think that's it?
Well, they're making another one. You saw that? Godzilla versus
No.
Kong 2. You didn't see that?
What are we doing? How's this going now?
It's a different Kong, and it looks like it might be in the future or it might be in the past because it's a
I
different
love
look
that.
now.
See, because
Yeah.
here's the thing. At the end, we don't need to have a cohesive storyline just to make it
Nah.
enjoyable. They just got to beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
And you know it's a tie. You know that, right? This isn't Mayweather and Pacquiao. You know, like we know it's always going to be a tie.
Right.
Nice. Didn't know there was going to be a second one. I love it.
Yeah, I see it, but it says it might be the same cast, so maybe it's in the same. That's stupid. If it's in the same timeline, I don't know. I'm not gonna read this whole article to see if that's true. I don't know, but yeah, like, uh, Godzilla versus Kong, and wait, what were we saying? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's just I just
Oh
find it
yeah, God.
fascinating that back to back episodes we've talked about the genius of Gareth Edwards, by the way.
Hmm.
Rogue One,
Yeah.
obviously, and Godzilla, like, he needs to get into like he needs to replace what M. Night Shyamalan used to be. I'm serious because he has the same type of style, you know, It's true. Like Signs, I'll give you a perfect. Signs probably my favorite, and not Shyamalan. And Village is a close second, right? Where you know what's going on. Got the ship, the lights, and then Mel Gibson's character hears the alien talking. Joaquin Phoenix sees the alien on the TV during the
Oh yeah.
Brazil birthday party thing, and you're like, "Holy crap!" And then everything comes together really fast. But you see the aliens literally for like 4 minutes, and you only get to see their face on 2 occasions. That's beautiful. And it does so much more impact. You know what I mean? And that's why I like the first Godzilla. It's like, look, you don't need to have Godzilla in for an hour. We get it. Thing's huge.
Yeah.
It can destroy everything. He's coming in when he needs to come in, and that's that. You know what I mean? That's the best part of it.
Yeah, man. And Gareth Edwards, um, the reason
He
I
did that
made
with
that
Darth Vader
face,
too in Rogue One. So
yes.
you start seeing these impactful characters that he's just subtly hinting at. He was like, "All right, we're waiting for Darth Vader in Rogue One. When's he coming?" Same with Godzilla. When's he coming? Some point he's going to come. And make this these the most important characters come in. It's the most impactful moments in the entire movie. That's what I like about it. And they don't
Yeah,
over. He doesn't overdo it.
he's really good at taking these hulking figures who are just scary and making them scary and showing you why they're badass. You know, like you said with Darth Vader when he at the end, uh rumor is that was supposed to be a lot more gruesome and Disney told them to cut that down because it's way too violent.
No such
Um
thing.
and I made a face because I totally forgot that Gareth Edwards has a new movie coming out, and I saw
Yes.
the trailer, and it looks amazing
Yes.
with John David Washington called the creator, and it looks
Yes. It looks
so
fantastic. Yes.
good called the creator.
I
I
like
can't wait for that.
John David Washington too.
Yeah, and Gareth Edwards has a lot of
Is he going to whisper in this movie? I can't deal with that.
nah, it's not a Christopher Nolan movie, you know. So
Hey, Oppenheimer looks good. Just side note
yeah, but
on
I
that.
heard it's like 4 hours.
Yeah, but dude, you're going to see it, right? You have to see it.
I'm gonna see it on home video, probably.
No, all right. No. First off, oh god, can't believe out of anyone who's having this conversation, it's me telling you you have to see it in the theater,
Hold on.
dude. Like, it's such a powerful thing what he's doing. You have to see it in the theater. You have to.
You're probably right, and I probably have to see it in an IMAX theater, you know,
Well,
because
it's only
he did
filmed
this.
on special camera, what lenses and stuff, because you know how he made that movie, right? He actually got people to create a nuclear reaction
Yeah, I saw that.
that it's none of it CGI'd. That's amazing to me. How are you not going to see that?
I mean,
You're the
it's
artsy guy, you know?
but that's not really art. If you're just filming, you got a nuclear bomb to go off, and I'm like,
He's the
first of
only
all, who
one who
let you
can
do
do
that?
that, first off.
First of all, who let you do that? Second of all, that's not really art. I I'm that guy who likes to watch when I watch
It's not a
Star
bomb
Wars.
that went off. He filmed the reaction, so it created the fire. That's what he did. That's a whole different thing.
Bro, like I'm the kind of guy who when I watch Star Wars, I watch the original 1977 Star Wars. I don't watch the updated crap that um George Lucas just
Yeah,
keeps
the one that shows
re-editing.
Han shot first.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I like
Yeah.
to see all the nooks and crannies. I like to watch the behind. I watched that special on Disney Plus of how ILM did that with no computer stuff back in the day. I like to see that.
Amazing.
That's artistry to me when you create even Christopher Nolan himself when he did The Dark Knight Rises with the plane, a lot of that was models and stuff. That's artistry to me. To sit there and actually make a bomb go off and just film the reaction. I mean, there is still some artistry in that, you know, as a director, you got to film it, you got to pick your shots, but I'm like,
Maybe you just don't appreciate that time in history because that is such an important time in history. Like, if those things didn't happen, we would not be here talking right now. Let's be
no,
real.
I get it, but
And that's what I appreciate because, first off, Cillian Murphy, let's be real, dude. I mean,
oh
come
yeah,
on.
he's great. I'm just at this point where, you know, someone said something to me like 5, 7 years ago. It was like, oh, I'm just done with Nolan. and his
Everyone says
attitude.
it. Okay, it's like saying you want to quit a job you hate. You talk all this crap. You don't do it. You're still there a year later. It's the same thing, and you're like, whatever. It's the same thing, dude. But this movie, I'm seeing it just because I'm like, listen, like this is fantastic. Just the snippets of what I've seen in the trailers alone, I'm like, I have to see this.
Now I'm looking
Like
online. It says 3 hours. I'll see it, especially because he's not the only writer. He got somebody else to help him write it.
his
Uh,
brother,
no, no, a
dang,
Kai
his
Bird and a
brother.
Martin
Oof.
Sherwin. Yeah, his brother's amazing, but it says it's 3 hours. I'll see it if it's 3 hours because I saw Avatar. But anything that's close to four, nah,
There's
son,
no way I'll see 4.
nah.
I don't have
Because
enough time in
that's
the
what
day.
I heard. I heard it
Half my
was
day's
four.
gone. Literally, half my day's gone.
Yeah, that's like 5 hours away out of my day for me. So I'll try to see it. But we'll see. But we're getting off topic. Godzilla versus Kong. Godzilla versus Kong.
It's not really off topic. We're talking about Godzilla going in, eating the nukes at Yucca facility. We're talking about Oppenheimer, about the nuclear bomb. It's not really off topic.
Christopher
Godzilla
Nolan.
might pop up in that. Who knows? Like we don't know.
No, it won't. This is Christopher Nolan we're talking about. The man who doesn't like CGI but keeps making CGI heavy stories, so whatever.
So, do you think Christopher Nolan would ever? Because he's probably one of the few guys in the industry that I know of, anyway, that really puts a lot of detail into the movies and like making it tangible and believable. Like Interstellar, in terms of how the black hole looked like.
I don't know
So
what's
we
my
had this
favorite film of his, Inception, Prestige, or Interstellar. Like, oh my gosh,
dude,
great movie.
Prestige is not even close. It's the best one, but
You're probably
but the
right.
black hole picture. So NASA just recently took a picture of a black hole. Nolan had a CGI version of what the black hole looked like back 7-8 years ago, and they're like, it's the same thing. How did he know that? Because he hired the
Yes,
most qualified people on the planet to say this is what the event horizon looks like. They compared it at first; it didn't look the same. They did a 3D model where they like turned it and it showed the event horizon. You're like, holy crap! It's the same black hole that's in the picture.
I
How does
heard.
he know that?
I heard it was so heavy on the visual effects computers that they had to build it with math from the people who consulted from like
That's
astro, like physics or whatever.
unbelievable, dude.
It's crazy, and it
Who
was
else
just
does
so
that?
heavy on. I don't know, man, but Interstellar it blows my mind. But you
How
might be
would
right
a
about the
Godzilla
Prestige.
movie look if it had a Christopher Nolan type of approach? First off, Godzilla would be 200 feet tall because there's no way you would move, right? But just
Well, Godzilla wouldn't
let's
be
just take
fighting on
that
a
unrealistic part.
helicarrier. Um, how would that be done? First of all, it
Would it
wouldn't be
be
done in
enjoyable?
order. It wouldn't be done in order. It would be out of order, as all his movies are. You know? It would show the birth of Godzilla, then the next
I
scene will
go to
be
the end,
Godzilla
you're
fighting.
fighting, you're like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah. First of all, I think Christopher Nolan would think that Godzilla versus Kong is beneath him. But
But not him, just his approach in terms of making it. Would it be enjoyable? Do you think people would actually like having that type of approach in a movie like that?
yes, because even though we all have our critiques of his last movie, I forgot the name of it.
Tenet.
Um, Tenet. Even though we have our critiques of that, it was still
Critiques?
critiques.
You
Yes,
can't hear anything. That's the biggest thing. You
but it was
have
still
to have
entertaining.
subtitles.
It was still
How was
entertaining.
it entertaining? Because you go to the movie theaters, there's no closed caption. I'm deaf, literally. Can't hear out of one ear. How am I supposed to hear this guy talk?
I don't know, bro.
When I watched it at home, I watched it twice. I felt like I needed to have double layered subtitles just to hear what this guy was saying.
Did you hear
Anyway,
what his
besides the point,
response was?
I know why, because he was like, you should have the right type of TV and sound system and blah blah blah. Bull
He didn't
crap.
even he even talked about theaters. He said my stuff is mixed for the best theaters, not your little theater or whatever. Like, okay, bro, calm
Okay,
down.
first off, all right. Not everyone's got like 15K like crystal ball type of glass on their TV. Like, I just want to hear what this man's saying. All
Do you
right.
know how hard it is to project all IMAX movies? And I just saw how much reels it will take
Have you
to
even thought
project
about
his
it?
movie.
What?
And I'm like, this movie won't be able to be shown on some theaters because,
What? Oppenheimer?
yeah, Oppenheimer,
Oh,
yeah,
I believe it.
because of the format. I'm like, this is insane. And
So your mom and pop, like, Inglorious Bastards type of movie theaters, just won't be able to do it. That's what you're saying.
and then exactly, and then on top of that, some people just will never see it because it's like watching the first Avatar on streaming on your TV back in 2009 when we didn't have 4K TVs. It's like, yo, this doesn't look
Oof.
as good. This doesn't look as good as it did in theaters. It's just not going to do it. So imagine Oppenheimer. You're going to have to get like a 16K TV just to enjoy Oppenheimer. So it's not going to translate. It's like I seen Avatar, the first one, twice, and that was twice in theaters. No, I seen it 3 times, twice in theaters. I watched it one time at home, never watched it again. Never. Even
No,
before
it's not the kind of movie. You're right. It's not the kind of movie you could just watch at home.
no,
It's just
it's
not that
not.
type of thing. It's an experience, right? And you got to
Yes.
watch it in the theater. It's just how it is.
And that's how Oppenheimer is going to be. I don't see the resale value. Like I don't see people, everybody, I still buy physical media, but some people buy digital. I don't see people
Physical
buying
media,
this.
Jesus.
I
It's
don't
like
see people
reading the
buying this
newspaper and
digitally.
print.
Well, these streaming, we talked about this, all this happening in streaming and people losing content. Yeah, you better start using physical media or you're not going to own what you have.
Yeah, but
Pretty
there's ways
soon.
to block that because the devices that have you do the playback can easily block it too.
Wait, what do you mean?
So let's just use an example, right? Let's just say you buy whatever DVD, or it's not a DVD, Blu-ray disc now, right?
Hmm.
You need to have a specific device to play it back.
But yeah, Blu-ray player.
Exactly. But if you have a physical disc, at some point, like when they get to the point of like limiting you, those devices are going to have to be like connected in order for you to use it. Have some kind of internet connection. They can easily stop the playback or prevent it from being played back. Is what I'm saying
That's
on
true, but those
specific discs.
devices, like mine can be hooked up to the internet, but I don't have it hooked up to the internet.
Right, but well, that's what I'm saying. Like at some point, like when we get to this, when we cross this road of what you just said, the only way you're going to have those devices working is connected to the internet, and it's going to block that.
That's
Just
why you
how it's
got to
going to
buy
work,
the
dude.
physical media
No,
and then
that's what
you
I'm
rip
saying,
it
dude.
to
It's
your
like what I'm
computer.
saying is that these devices are only going to work if you want to play the physical media, if it's connected to the internet. Like right now, the Blu-ray player that you have is going to be a VCR in like 10 years. And this is really when that's going to be happening.
Yeah.
So you're going to need to have an updated device that's going to play the physical media, and it's going to be banned, and you're not going to be able to play the disc because it's like, nope,
You
doesn't
know what
matter.
you just,
So
just you know what you just described? The video game industry today.
100%. Doesn't why That's why it doesn't matter if it's physical or digital. There's ways to block it. Is my point, right? So
So
it's
you gotta rip these movies onto an external hard drive so you can have them forever
it's like
in the format that you
cryptocurrency,
want.
dude. Like, but what good is it if you can't even play it? I'm serious. It's great if you have it.
Yeah,
I
and what
we
good
have
is it
VC
if
we
you
have we
try
have
to play
VCR
it?
tapes, right?
Yeah,
Where am I going to get a working VCR?
I have one.
Yeah, but at some point it's going to die. Then what?
Yeah, yeah, true. That's
It's
why I
same with these
converted all
Blu-ray
my stuff to
players.
digital and put it on a hard drive.
Okay, now we're back to what I just said. We might as well just download things digital. You get what I'm saying? It's
I mean, you gotta have your own archives.
God. No, I think we're screwed no matter what when it comes to this type of thing. And
Yeah,
ownership is a very
slippery.
ambiguous term in terms of media. It's a matter of time before it's like, what do we really own? Like I think when we went to the subscription model for like everything, you don't really own anything. Like remember back
Nah,
in
you
the day,
don't.
you could buy Microsoft Word one-time fee, right? You got Microsoft 16 or whatever it was, Office.
Yeah,
Now it's subscription. You have no way to buy Microsoft one time. You got to pay for it every month.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So you have no ownership to Office anymore.
yeah.
So it's just fascinating to me that virtually everything in life is like that, and it sucks, because otherwise I would just stick. I would get physical copies too, but the writing's on the wall. I think.
Nah, I'll never give up my physical copies. I just
Now,
won't.
are you the kind of guy? Let's just say you had like a really rare movie. Would you go out your way to get like it autographed by like the creators of it, or does that not matter to you?
That doesn't really matter to me. I mean, like this Batman picture is signed by the director and everything, but like that doesn't really matter to me. Like even though growing up this was like my sports, movies was like my sports. I can name directors, writers, ba. Like I don't know, it just doesn't really matter to me. Like even though I preach physical media, I was never the guy who had sentimental value to stuff they hold. Like I had friends who had a special watch. I had friends who had a necklace that they got from their mother or something like that. I was never that guy. I never put sentimental value to, you know, physical stuff, which is why I don't own any of the stuff I grew up with. I keep it at my parents' house. They can have it. I don't care. But like yeah, that doesn't really matter to me. Like if I saw like one of my favorite directors right now is Denis Villeneuve. Um
Who's
and
that?
one he did Dune, the director, he did Prisoners,
He did
he did
Dune.
Blade Runner 2049.
Okay, I love Blade
Um,
Runner, but Dune though, gosh, I have some.
I
I need
got
to
my
tell him
critiques.
like, doesn't make sense. Is what it is.
Well, blame the source material for that. But
No, don't even get started on the book, okay? Because oh my god, don't even start. There's a lot of creative licenses with that movie where it doesn't line up with the book. Okay,
I mean, I'm not going to
I
read
can't
it,
wait to
but
say it.
I hear that book is all over the place. But
Yes.
but yeah, like if Denis Villeneuve, I met him tomorrow, and I wouldn't be like, "Yo, can you sign my Dune disc?" Because you know I got one. Uh, I would actually just sit down with him and just be like, "Let's have a conversation. Like, what
Yeah.
inspired you to do this movie? What inspired you to do it
Hmm.
this way? What films do you watch? Do you rewatch on a daily? Well, not a daily, but
Hmm.
like when you have time, what do you want to rewatch? You know, stuff like that. I'm not like, oh, sign this, because it's like a baseball card. Nah, it's like I'd rather just have a interaction with people like that,
Hmm.
you know. And
No,
that's
I.
something that I'll always remember and retain.
So if you just get famous, right? You decide to go into movie business.
Mm.
Someone comes up to you, you're like, you know what? I want you to sign whatever. Would you do it?
I think it would be weird because no one asks sign stuff anymore. They're always like, "Let's get a selfie." But if they asked me to sign it, I would be so surprised. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll sign it." Because I'd rather sign something than someone be like, "Take a picture with me," because I don't really like taking pictures. So
Right.
I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll sign it.
No, no, that's true.
Here's my chicken
I,
scratch." You
I
know.
don't like taking pictures. No, I don't like taking pictures either. But one thing that did bring up was the video game industry, right? So what what adaptation, whatever it is, in any
Mhm.
storyline, what do you want to see live action from a video game?
From a video game. See, that's hard, because it's funny that you say this. Because there's so many games that I love now that are basically long form movies. God of War, the new one, 2018 one, Ghost of Tsushima, uh, Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. There's a lot of games now.
You missed the biggest one,
What?
Mass Effect, bro.
Oh, Mass,
I can't believe it.
Mass Effect,
Jesus,
Mass Effect. Oh,
that
don't get me started.
started it. That was
I
the
love,
original.
I love Mass Effect so much. I don't want them to touch it. I just don't want them to mess it up. Just make a new game. Don't make a movie.
Henry Cavill plays Commander Shepard. I'll be okay with it.
But they might mess it up. But if they do mess it up, Henry Cavill will hold them accountable and be like, "I'm out," like he did with The
Because
Witcher.
he's a huge
He's a huge
video
nerd, and I
game
love it.
fan. So, yeah.
I love it. And he does not like that whole liberties with the source material type stuff unless it's good for the story, that he don't want you messing with stuff.
which story so which one do you want live action then? I gotta hold you accountable. I asked you just
Oh
pick
yeah, yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. Ghost of Tsushima,
Ghost of Tsushima. That's
and
a
I'll tell
very
you
good
why.
story.
I'll tell you why. Cause you played it right recently.
Yeah, dude, it's like a Japanese Highlander.
I'll tell you why. Growing up, one of my favorite genres was the sword and they called it the sword and sandal genre. You know, movies like Gladiator, Troy, stuff like that. You know,
Highlander, dude, I'm telling you.
Highlander. Um, so I love those movies. I just watched a video essay by someone I forgot
Mhm.
who said, "What happened to the sword and sandals genre? Why did it die off?" You know, and even though I don't think Gladiator 2 is the way to go, I am happy that a sword and sandals movie is coming back. And Ghost of Tsushima has everything that I want. It has martial arts, sword fighting, philosophy, um, the whole story itself. I mean, Jin Sakai, he has to go against his own moral code to save his people. That's a whole internal struggle right there that I would love to
Beautiful
see
moment.
on the screen. And the ending, no matter what ending you choose,
He's screwed.
it's you're screwed and it's amazing. I mean,
Gotta kill his uncle no matter what, or not. And then his
yeah,
uncle hunts him down. I have him kill his uncle, by the way,
it
because
doesn't yeah,
that's the
it doesn't
samurai
matter
in me.
what you choose, the ending is just great. And I mean, they're making it. You know, they're making. I think it's a movie, not a show. Sony's making it,
No, that's a
and
movie. That's something you got to make into a movie. That is not a show type of thing because it would not just be consistent with the show. Like,
and it has to be like a trilogy. It can't be one movie because there's
no,
things in there that you just can't cut.
too many elements.
It's yeah, it's too many elements you just can't cut. And it's a great game. It's a great story, and I just love video games like that. And
Hmm.
we need more games like that, but we don't need more games that are just a God of War clone because we're starting to see that now. You know, with the close camera over the shoulder and the same kind of simple but effective combat. You know, just the same storytelling. I'm down for. You know, but definitely Ghost of Tsushima. You know, I was gonna say Metal Gear, but Ghost of Tsushima has everything I want. You know, Metal Gear is kind of like a sci-fi political thriller. We have plenty of those right now. What we don't have is movies like Ghost of Tsushima. We just don't have 'em. So, what about for you for a video game?
Hmm. I would say
Because you play all types of games. For those who don't know, like you are a game killer. Like you'll play a game and just kill it. Go
I play
through
the
it.
hardest stuff. I just love it.
Yeah,
So
you
I
play at
like,
the hardest levels too.
yeah. All right. So I'm gonna do the list like you did, and then I'll narrow down to one.
Okay, sounds good.
Gears of War.
Oh, good pick. But the
I love,
old Gears of War, because the new
yeah,
ones
because
kind
look,
of.
dude, I got a Gears of War tattoo. It's how much I love the saga, right?
I gotta play the first one again.
Oh, dude. I love the story. I love that type of struggle. There's no, it's dystopic and end of the world, which we've gotten a lot of, but we don't get enough. We usually get like a lone survivor type of thing, and that's just not really interesting to me. I like people who fight through it, and there's like a glimmer of chance of surviving. It's not already ended. Do you know
Oh,
what I
can I
mean?
just say this real quick
Do
before
it.
you continue? I love what you just said, and now with after Guardians of the Galaxy, after 2014, after that movie came out, whenever we get a group of people who are fighting against something, it's in the format of Guardians, you know, where there's little quippies here, jokey joke
Right,
here.
like you said
It's not like
offline,
Gears of
it makes
War.
sense. There's nothing like there's skin in the game, but there's real no consequence to it.
Yes.
Like you're not there's not
Yeah.
like it's not like there's no gravity in like your sacrifice because you know they're going to survive versus Gears a lot of people died.
Yes. Gears was yes, give us Gears, man. Okay, continue with your list.
I would pick the Jedi Survivor series
Mm-hmm.
100%. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I love. See, I know you're tired of that whole Skywalker timeline thing, but
Yes.
one thing I really do appreciate is that that game has such little. It has just enough Darth Vader in both of them that you
Mm-hmm.
appreciate them, and you can kind of tie in other elements, and it gives. Cal Kestis is probably like the most human Jedi you've ever seen,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I like about it because you see his internal struggle with the guy who went through a lot of crap, a lot of trauma. He's trying to reconcile all that, and he's got no one. And I just like that type of relatability because Jedi aren't relatable, really, you know. And I think that was part of the reason why we've talked ad
Yeah.
nauseum over this. Why Anakin wasn't the fall of Anakin wasn't so big because you just didn't relate to him. Like if you related to him, you're like, okay, you have to make Darth Vader a sympathy villain. Like you have to feel for him. Otherwise, it completely takes away the gravity of why he turned bad. And they
Well, that's a
just did
perfect
not hit home.
example of the writer not knowing how to write sympathy for the
Villains,
characters.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's that's why I like 310 to Yuma so much. Russell Crowe's character,
Yes. I love that movie. I love it. Oh, yes. Continue. Oh, I love that
uh, a Zelda movie
movie. Interesting.
or a Metroid Prime type of thing.
Okay.
That would be cool too, just for fun. You know, like you
Right,
don't
right.
have to have everything like an Oscar-worthy
Yeah, not
performance to make
everything
it
has to
fun.
be crazy serious, you know.
One last one. Let me think. I need a Sony one. Um, because I can't leave Sony out.
I mean, you could.
I guess I could. Uh, some that would be quirky would be like Jack and Dexter.
Deep cuts, man. I used to be a big Jack and Daxter fan.
But seriously, like you can have like the
Like an animated movie, Jack and
you
Daxter.
know, not, or like like that type of thing.
Or
Like you can
or a 2D animation. We don't have 2D hand drawn stuff anymore, you know.
yeah.
So
All right, so out of that list, what do I want the most as a
you just gave yourself a hard task after that list.
I know. I really do. Here's the thing, dude. Like, I'm such a huge Star Wars guy. Like, I want Cameron Monaghan so bad in the universe. Like, I'm willing to speak it into existence at this point.
He's a great
And
actor, man.
he is like, and I said last time, like, how would you feel if he was the face of Star Wars and you don't know how you feel about it? Like, I think you'd be perfect for it. Like, he's the
That's true.
guy that you want to be. If you killed Adam Driver off in the last saga, who they should have kept around. Keep that guy in your back pocket because he's fantastic.
Right.
You got something better, just don't screw it up. Make him live action. He is the perfect character you can just kind of bring in. You're like, holy crap, I'm related. You feel for the dude, and you can kind of take it whatever way that you want. You can kind of, if you want to leave the Clone Wars stuff behind, he's a young guy. He can go off into the future and talk about stuff. Like there's so much you can do with it. So
I agree.
I think I'm leaning towards that, and that also gives Kathleen Kennedy the ability to redeem herself amongst the Star Wars community.
I agree. Cal Kestis. I'm playing Survivor now, and I feel like his character's just gotten even better for me.
Dude,
And
it's so much. You're going to be blown away
right,
by it's typical Star Wars like storytelling in the sense of there's betrayal, there's love, all that crap, right? But it takes all the best elements of a Star Wars storytelling and it intertwines it in such a great medium. Like, why can't this just be used in movies? How can
yeah,
a video game character? How can a video game company Respawn? I think that's Respawn, right?
yes, yes,
Do this. I'm like, you need to hire these guys just to do the movies
Zach.
because I'm like, who did this? Whoever did this seriously needs to be recognized for great writing because I'm like, that's all you need. Take these
Zach.
guys, make a whole new trilogy, and you'll be fine because they did a fantastic job with the dialogue, with the screenplay, with everything. I'm like, why is this hard?
I just gotta say this, man, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy to think this is a fact. This is a hardcore fact. some of the best lightsaber battles and some of the best Star Wars stories have always come from video games. Think about it.
Battles in particular, yeah, dude. Like, especially in Jedi Survivor, it's such a cool way to have lightsaber combat. Like, you actually feel like a Jedi, and that's hard because the other movies, the other games are just like, okay, fine, whatever. Like Battlefront, you're zipping around, you got no one's killing you. All right,
I'm
let's
not
be
even
real.
I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about. Do you remember the cutscenes? I mean, the cutscenes and the trailers for Knights of the Old Republic, the online game.
Badass, dude. Badass.
I have them saved on my YouTube in
They're
my
fantastic.
action category.
Yeah,
Amazing.
fantastic.
The
Why
best
wasn't the game like
fights.
that was beyond me, but it's besides the
I
point.
know, which is whatever. But those fight scenes were some of the best. And if you look in
Who
those
did that?
comments,
Who directed those scenes?
I think it was
And they
Blur
need to find a way to
Studios
be
from
into the
TJ
big
Miller.
screen. Okay, well they need to be hired and stuff now. Why just
They won't do it. You know why? Because there's gatekeepers in Hollywood, which is why some of the best content we get is from video games, comic books, books
but they're
themselves.
insistent on it being canon. That means that these people have just as much say in the universe as anyone else.
They insist on it being canon, but they won't give these people credit when they make the movies. You know,
That's a shame.
they'll say, "Oh, this is based off of this book. This is based off of this comic. This is based off of this video game."
If
And then
there's
what
not a save
happens is
from
not as good as the
Respawn,
original.
if Calcast is, I think we both know this is live action already being made. Let's be real, because this is probably like the biggest home run in a Star Wars character, original character, in a very long time, and I just can't see them not doing something with him.
And he's
You
redhead.
don't.
Apparently, Hollywood doesn't like redheads, but he's redhead. Bring him to live action.
Hollywood doesn't like redhead. I mean,
You
Christina
never heard that
Hendricks.
theory? You never heard that?
I mean, Christina Hendricks is redhead, right? She was pretty good in Mad Men, right? I mean,
Yeah, but is she in anything lately?
that's a damn shame she's not.
She's only really ever been in TV
You're right.
and old TV, not the new streaming TV.
That's a shame.
Yeah, you see my point?
She's like the most beautiful human being on the planet. She needs to be on something. I'm telling you. And like she can act too, so I'm not just.
Oh yeah. She can act. Yeah,
I don't get it.
But
so this makes my point. Then we're gonna break a prejudice barrier with redheads with Cameron Monaghan. This guy, he's got the it factor, and he's been in stuff recently. You know, he's Shameless and all that, so he knows he can act. He's proven it.
He's arguably one of the best Jokers. Arguably, some people consider him the best live action Joker.
What do you think?
He's close, man. He's real close. I watched Gotham only because of him. I didn't finish it.
Yes.
When it got too much, I would just watch his scenes.
Gotham was a little too. It lost its identity.
It was a good premise in the beginning, and then it just fell off.
No, dude, you're right about the Joker. I completely forgot he did it. I'm like, holy crap, he did.
That was him. And he played two different Jokers. Two different.
Bro. Dude, and he's come on, man. What are we doing? Where do we have to? Whose children do we have to sacrifice to make this happen?
I mean, when you just laid it out all on the table like that, I agree. What is going on here? Why is he not in any projects? There's so many Star Wars projects coming up. Why is
I
he
know
not
there's
in
hush
any?
hush though, like and you know you've said this. You made a good point. They announce these Star Wars projects and they axe them as quick as they announce them.
Yes.
And then but Jon Favreau though he's like the kingpin. He does things in silence, and then you just pop out and you're like, oh dang, you know what I mean? It's like the Luke Skywalker thing. There was not a peep or a leak about the Luke Skywalker thing in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Not even a hint that was going to be in there, right?
So do you think Cal Kestis is going to be in Ahsoka or Skeleton Crew?
I think he's already got his own thing being made, dude. And you can tell, like, from the Star Wars International thing, someone asked Cameron Monaghan that. He was like, well, I'm not allowed to say, and he smiles. I'm like, dude, you already know.
But
You already know
why?
something's being made.
See, I don't. Maybe you can understand. Maybe you can explain this better to me because you're a businessman. Why announce Ray coming back, but not announce a Cal Kestis project? He's a better character, and it would be
Because
more
not
exciting.
everyone knows who Cal Kestis is, right? So the ones who are older, like the audience who are like older, who remember the first Star Wars movies out in the 70s and 80s, like they have no idea who this guy is. You know, they're like, "Who's this?"
They don't play video games, or they don't watch the cutscenes on YouTube. For video games, I want to know the story of. I just watch all the cutscenes on YouTube.
Bro, you'd be surprised, man. Boomers live in a box, bro.
Yeah, true.
You know,
Some of
but
them
I'm
still have
serious. Like
cable.
that's just the generation. That's just how it is. The generation. Like,
Some of them still use cable, bro.
oh, I know.
Like they don't even stream at all. Like I know some people like that. Don't stream at all. Boomers. It's wild, bro.
I mean, how are they starting fires? Are they using a flint wood and stick? I'm like, I'm just not a lighter, you know? No, but I think so. For me, like personally, like Star Wars has always been like that. They've prided itself in terms of being so leak preventative. You know, like the lengths they had to do when that script got recovered by that cleaning person to not get that script out. You know, we didn't hear about it till like after the fact. It's just amazing. I can't imagine them having a character because the majority of the people are going to know who he is. Like, you know, people in their 40s and below are probably going to know who this guy is because it's a huge game. Everyone knows what it is, you know.
Right.
I just can't see how they don't not announce it at some point, but it's not going to be one of those things where it's going to be announced as long as like a upcoming project. It's going to be one of those things where it's announced as an independent thing and it's like a couple months out type of thing. Kind of like how Obi-Wan was. Excuse me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I hope they keep it that way and they don't make it into this Marvel. Oh, Ahsoka's in here now too. The Mandalorians and not just
But
keep it a
the thing
singular
is, once you
thing.
play the game, you'll see that it's already spoken for. Like that's inevitable.
Yeah.
You know, like because the thing is with the games, they're making 3 games total, right? So
Oh, really?
yeah, I mean, Star Wars are on trilogies. Like at the end of the game, you're like, okay, there's going to be another one, and it's already been said. Like, look, it's 3 games. That's his story, and that's that.
Let's hope when the next game launches, it's not broken at launch.
It was a little broken, but I kept playing it just because I know the premise. Like, it was such a beautiful thing that I'm like, okay, performance issues aren't going to deter me from getting the story. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
That's a home run. That's just how I feel about it. Anyway, he's like, I think he could easily be like that next it guy in Hollywood. Personally,
I
you
think
know,
he could too, man. You don't hear any craziness about him outside the media, which is nice. That's hard to
like
find.
Arnie Hammer. Remember when he was the it guy, and then all of a sudden it came out he was a cannibal, and now he sells timeshares in the Caymans.
Yikes. But yeah, I think he's the it guy. I think he could really propel Star Wars. He could be that pill that Star Wars needs to get forward in life.
Legitimize it as a actual franchise again
Yeah, I think
beyond
Star Wars just
streaming.
needs to go back to the basics. Go back to being movies and go back to, keep it simple, stupid. Look at James Cameron. His movies, the stories are simple, but they're just great.
And Godzilla movies and all the
And
monster movies, simple. They know
yeah,
what they are, and they're not trying to move around. You know, add more than what it is.
exactly. You look at the original Star Wars when it was just Star Wars, not Star Wars Episode 4. It was just a simple, hero story. Guy meets girl, falls in love with her just from a hologram, wants to save her. There's a rogue, there's a buddy with the rogue, there's the wise old man to help the hero. Something simple. A hero's journey.
Falls
Just
in
keep
love
it
with a
like that.
girl from a hologram
Yeah, yeah.
who happened to be a sister.
But I'm talking about before it was Episode 4, when it was just Star Wars as a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
by
No,
itself.
no, no. Exactly.
Just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Indiana Jones was the Raiders of the Lost Ark was a movie by itself, and it became so good that they created it as
Are you
Indiana
gonna?
Jones and the
Before
Raiders
we
of the
go, I'm
Lost Ark.
curious, dude. This whole new Indiana Jones movie, you're gonna see it or what?
Bro, you know I don't watch trailers. So I saw Spider-Verse today, and the first trailer that came up was the new Indiana Jones. The whole time my eyes kept going in the back of my head. I was just like, oh, I was on the fence about watching it before because I like James Mangold as a director, but seeing that trailer, and it was a
I
long
thought
trailer. It was like two and a
I
half
thought the
minutes.
last one was going to be Shia LaBeouf take replacing him. Wasn't that the whole point of the Crystal Skull?
Yeah, but then Shia LaBeouf lost his mind and also lost the favor of the people. So,
He is
you
the
know,
white Kanye of Hollywood. You know that, right?
it's a good assessment. He kind of is.
Except he's not anti-Semitic because he's Jewish, but turned
Give it
Catholic
time.
now.
Give it time.
How? I mean, I guess he can be. Yeah.
Give it time. I mean, he's already putting his hands on women. But that got a little dark.
Hey.
So like, Kanye's anti-Semitic, and Shia LaBeouf puts his hands on women. So, but I'm not making this up. People, look up the facts.
No, it's
But
true. Yeah. No, it's
but
Jesus.
yeah. After watching that trailer today, forcibly, I was
Why do
like,
you think Harrison Ford was so keen on sticking with Indiana Jones versus Star Wars?
bro, I don't know, bro. I forgot what YouTuber said it, but they was like, yo, Harrison Ford needs a new agent because his agent is just saying yes to everything. He's like, get out there, old man, and do this movie. You need to buy a new condo or something. Because I'm like, you see Harrison Ford in this trailer, you see him, he's talking a lot, and he's like, I mean, he's an old man. He's like, what is his 80s? And then he'll do an action bit, but it's not him. You can tell they widen out the camera so it's a stunt guy. And I'm like, that's not Indiana Jones. That's not. And then there's one scene where he's riding a horse, but it's not him. His face is clearly CGI, and it's a stunt guy on a horse. What are we doing?
Like putting Joe Biden up there. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. Like, what are we
And
doing?
and shout out to the critical drinker because looking at that trailer, I was like, this might be a film that's trying to push the message, and I'll just leave it at that.
I'm not going to see it. Because after seeing the
Me
trailer
neither.
and the Guardians movie, I'm like, there's no way I'm going
Me
to spend
neither.
$50
Nah.
for that.
I mean, I love James Mangold, but I can't. I just can't. After that trailer,
I didn't even know James Mangold was doing it, and I
he
like his
directed.
movies, but what possessed him to do this?
Money, man. Because
Money.
it's funny because James Mangold is critical of movies like this,
Mm-hmm.
and he's doing one like this. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
money's
He reminds me of Wes Anderson.
really.
Yeah, because Wes Anderson always just did his own thing, standoff stuff, right? He never really went out of the way to be part of a franchise of anything. You
But
know what I
then
mean?
James Mangold did the Wolverine. He did Logan.
Yeah, but those are one-offs still. Like, you can treat them as separate things. They're not related. You know what I mean? Like, they're this part of the same thing, but they're like two separate movies where you don't have to see one or the other to like appreciate them. You know what I mean?
The Wolverine more so, but Logan is better if you know the history behind Professor X and Logan's relationship
I,
together.
I I think so too, but you can see it for the first time. I think you can get a gist
Yeah,
of what it
yeah, you
is.
you can get it without that context, but if you have that context, it had the
Because
film
Logan's
has more
not
weight.
canon, right? It's not anything. It's its own thing.
Nah, yeah, it's on. This is on, and I love it for that. But I think we should wrap it up, man. I mean, we tried to do a Godzilla versus Kong, but we went off tangent. I was gonna bring it back around, but I think we had a great conversation, man.
It's
We hit
beautiful.
some really good points. We did
Mm-hmm.
some good old Lucasfilm bashing once again. Good old stuff.
Dude, the the layup was there, dude. I'm telling
Because
you.
Indiana Jones is a
Sometimes
Lucasfilm production. So
it is.
we'll see. But this was another good one. My nomads. I hope you liked it. See you next time. Be creative. Peace.